The commissioning of JS Raigei into the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force marks a decisive point in the evolution of Japan's underwater capability, not as an isolated procurement event, but as an indicator of how Tokyo envisions its long-term maritime security posture in an increasingly contested region. The Japanese approach to submarine warfare has always been shaped by geography. Japan is an island nation located along critical sea lanes and choke points. It must secure its maritime lifelines and monitor activity across the East China Sea and the broader Indo-Pacific. Submarines are therefore not merely vessels in the fleet, they are instruments of national endurance, resilience, and strategic ambiguity. Raigei belongs to the Taigei-class, the successor to the Sōryu class that defined the previous generation of Japanese submarine design. Where Sōryu emphasized air-independent propulsion and conventional endurance, the Taigei series incorporates an updated architecture centered on advanced lithium-ion battery systems, new acoustic absorption features, improved combat management systems, and a refined hydrodynamic hull. Japanese naval analysts frequently emphasize that the true advantage lies not in raw displacement or recorded power output, but in the accumulated engineering discipline of decades of incremental improvements. Japan does not pursue spectacle. It pursues silence, reliability, and steady, predictable mastery of undersea detection and evasion. This mindset reflects Japan's broader defense doctrine. Unlike powers that project force through carrier strike groups or nuclear-armed platforms, Japan employs submarines as guardians of the maritime threshold. They patrol the unseen border. They provide early detection of possible incursions. They study the acoustic signatures of rival fleets. They create a condition in which any hostile naval movement near Japanese waters carries persistent uncertainty. That uncertainty is a form of deterrence in itself. In the words of multiple Japanese naval officers over the years, the value of the submarine is not primarily in how it can strike, but in how it can be anywhere without being observed. Japan's undersea force must be understood within the context of the Nansei Island chain. The southwestern islands, stretching from Kyushu through Okinawa toward Taiwan, form a natural geographic filter. The waters between these islands are narrow, shallow in some segments, and acoustically complex. The ability to monitor, disrupt, or block passage through these corridors could be decisive in any maritime confrontation in the region. JS Raigei is not a generic submarine intended for global deployment. It is optimized for the waters Japan expects to defend. The hull coating, propulsion, and sonar processing are attuned not to abstract performance metrics, but to the real marine environment of the East China Sea. When comparing Japan's submarine trajectory to that of neighboring states, the distinctions are instructive. China has invested heavily in a mixed fleet of nuclear-powered and conventional boats, prioritizing endurance, payload capacity, and an ability to operate far into the Pacific. South Korea emphasizes modularity, export potential, and flexible offensive capability. Japan, by contrast, focuses on stealth, near-sea superiority, and defensive control of maritime choke points. These are not merely different procurement decisions, they represent different strategic philosophies. For Japan, the submarine is an extension of a national belief in denial-based defense and high-precision maritime guarding. The industrial dimension behind Raigei also matters. The role of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and Kawasaki Heavy Industries demonstrates that Japanese submarine production is not only a military investment. It is an ecosystem of engineering, metallurgy, computation, sensor technology, and skilled labor. The intergenerational craftsmanship embodied in monozukuri culture reinforces the sense that these submarines are not mass-produced military tools, but optimized precision products. The internal conditions for crew, improvements to vibration reduction, and upgrades to sensor fusion systems reveal a commitment to the welfare of personnel and operational continuity, not just combat potential. This nuance resonates with Japanese audiences, who see national defense as a disciplined civic undertaking rather than as mere militarization. Raigei's addition to the fleet subtly shifts strategic balance. One submarine does not transform a fleet, but each generation of Japanese submarine narrows the acoustic and perceptual gap between detection and invisibility. In modern undersea warfare, the decisive metric is often not weapon payload or missile capacity, but whether a submarine can locate threats before being located itself. Japan's growth in sensor technology, machine learning-supported sonar classification, and fiber optic communication arrays are all areas where incremental advances accumulate over time. These enhancements are rarely publicized with dramatic language, but they shape the real dynamics of maritime deterrence. Looking toward the 2030-2040 horizon, several developmental strands are emerging. Future submarines may integrate unmanned underwater vehicles directly into the command structure of the mothership submarine, enabling distributed sensing across multiple depths and directions. Research on potential nuclear-powered submarines is discussed cautiously in strategic circles, though any movement in that direction would require political reinterpretation of existing defense constraints. It is more likely that Japan will continue refining ultra-silent diesel-electric systems with even more sophisticated lithium-ion energy storage and improved bastatic sonar networks that operate with allied support from the United States and partner nations. The strategic vision guiding these efforts remains anchored in a distinctly Japanese framing. Preserving peace through readiness, defending sovereignty through intelligence and early warning, and maintaining freedom of navigation through a quiet but vigilant presence. The purpose of Japan's submarine fleet is not to dominate the oceans, but to ensure that no other power can dominate the seas around Japan. In this sense, Raigei is not just a submarine, but part of a distributed maritime sensing architecture embedded into the geography of the archipelago. It adds one more invisible node to Japan's maritime defense web. The significance of JS Raigei should therefore be understood not primarily in terms of threat or escalation, but in terms of confidence and continuity. Japan is not abandoning its identity as a nation committed to peaceful development. Rather, it is equipping itself with the tools required to safeguard that identity in a world where regional maritime competition is deepening. Every improvement in quieting technology and every enhancement in detection fidelity strengthens the security of Japan's sea lanes and coastal waters. For Japanese viewers, the story of Raigei is ultimately a story of responsibility. Responsibility to protect the homeland, responsibility to sustain open waters, and responsibility to ensure that future generations inherit a stable maritime environment. Japan's pathway in submarine development remains measured, methodical, and deeply rooted in both strategic necessity and technological craftsmanship. The commissioning of JS Raigei is a visible milestone in a largely invisible struggle for acoustic advantage and positional awareness beneath the waves. It is a reaffirmation that Japan understands its maritime environment with clarity and prepares for its defense with quiet determination and long-term vision.